You know, I never really pictured myself as the guy who would end up famous for launching a treehouse into the woods with the HOA president screaming on the top deck, but life has a way of surprising you sometimes with a bang, sometimes with a mimosa spill, and sometimes both at once. I swear the day I hit that remote and watched my custom-built treehouse roll down the hill, Karen's shriek echoing through the neighborhood, I realized two things in the span of a single breath. One, this was going to be the most satisfying Tuesday I'd ever had. And two, I really should have done this weeks ago, back when she called the cops on my swing set and declared war on anything fun within a 5-mile radius. See the thing about living next door to a Karen? No, not just any Karen, but the Karen, the self-appointed president, queen, and tyrant of the West Pinewood Estates HOA is you start to expect drama. But I never expected she'd literally break into my private treehouse, redecorate it with macrame and lavender oil diffusers, and start hosting yoga brunches up there like she'd discovered California in 1849. I'm talking she changed the locks, hung a handmade community healing hut sign, and started telling everyone that the treehouse, my treehouse, was now open for the spiritual betterment of the whole neighborhood. Not once did she ask permission. No, she strolled in like a pirate, landing on a beach, made herself at home, and gave a speech about communal harmony from my hammock sipping cucumber water like she was Gwyneth Paltrow. But here's the thing, she didn't know. That treehouse, it wasn't just wood and rope, it was a prototype. A mobile eco-retreat built on a steel chassis with solar panels, satellite internet, hydraulic lifts, and most importantly, wheels. Hidden wheels controlled by a GPS-linked remote. I built it after quitting my job designing modular homes, partly for the engineering challenge, partly because I needed a sanctuary after a decade of city noise, and partly because, well, I love the idea of an off-grid escape that you could roll away from trouble if you had to. I just never figured the trouble would come wearing a pink tracksuit and demanding essential oils. It all started 3 months earlier. I'd spent every spare hour making this thing perfect. Smart lighting, water purification, even a loft that could rise and lower with the press of a button. My masterpiece. But that love was tested the day Karen, peering over from her second-floor balcony, spotted the finished product. First came a gold-edged letter. Yes. Gold foil slipped under my gate, telling me my vertical living structure threatened the property values and somehow blocked moonlight from her garden. I laughed at first. Then the fines started appearing. Not real fine slips of paper she made herself. Unauthorized aerial structure fee, $250. Moonlight obstruction assessment, $100. Yeah, that happened. I ignored them. The HOA had no real authority over my property line, but Karen wasn't the type to back down when ignored. She rallied her crew, hosted emergency meetings, filed noise complaints about wind chimes I didn't even own. The drama hit a fever pitch when I went camping for the weekend and came home to find my gate wide open and the treehouse transformed: white curtains, string lights, yoga mats, the works. There sprawled out in yoga pants were half a dozen of her friends nibbling cheese and acting like they'd checked into a spa. Karen herself, sunglasses the size of satellite dishes, was arranging a namaste display in my kitchenette. I asked what in the world was going on. Karen, head tilted in that fake serene way, said, "We've appropriated this space for community healing. It's too beautiful to be private." She smiled. I nearly choked. And then she said, "Don't worry. We brought our own crystals." Like that was supposed to make it all okay. Now I could have lost it right there. But instead, I did what any self-respecting engineer with a secret weapon would do. I backed out, strolled down to my truck, and pulled out the silver briefcase I'd stashed for emergencies. Inside the matte black remote, complete with fingerprint scanner, I flipped the cover, pressed the big red button, and listened. From the hilltop, I heard the soft mechanical hum, felt the vibration as the treehouse chassis lowered and the wheels extended. Karen and her healers didn't notice until the floor started to tilt, the deck creaked, and suddenly the whole structure began to descend, slow at first, then picking up as it rolled away from the tree, following the path I'd programmed for test runs. You should have heard the screaming. Parfaits were flying, plant hangers swung like jungle vines, and Karen hollered about calling the sheriff while clutching a throw pillow like a shield. One of the internal cameras. Yeah, I watched the whole thing on my laptop, showed Marlene, a guest who just came for tea. clinging to a yoga block for dear life. The treehouse wheeled through the woods, the built-in speaker system cheerily playing bird sounds as Karen's meditation hut vanished into the trees. "Welcome to Arbor Escape. Please remain calm as we travel through Mark's private forest," the automated voice intoned. I swear I nearly passed out from laughter. Meanwhile, chaos back in the neighborhood. Karen's husband, Todd, poor guy, looked like he was living through an existential crisis called 911. "My wife is trapped in a runaway treehouse." No, it's not a metaphor. Neighbors gathered on the curb, Phil across the street launched his drone for better footage, and a local news van showed up before sunset. The story went viral in a matter of hours. The whole block was live streaming. The best part. The treehouse paused at my favorite spot on the trail, the Vista Point clearing, and the AI voice politely encouraged the guests to enjoy the view and learn a raccoon fact. Karen lost it, hurling a yoga mat at an actual raccoon who'd wandered up, which Marlene later described as the most dramatic wildlife encounter of my life. I figured that would be the end of it, teach her a lesson, call it even. But Karen didn't just escalate, she went nuclear. By morning, her press conference was everywhere, complete with neck brace and a speech about being the victim of eco-terrorism. The internet had a field day, memes, remixes, even a TikTok where someone reenacted the whole saga with Legos. But Karen wasn't done. She lawyered up, threatened lawsuits, claimed emotional trauma, the works. But I had her beat footage, permits, blueprints, proof that she'd broken in, held unauthorized events, you name it. My cousin Sheila, an environmental lawyer with a real taste for drama, countersued for trespassing, property damage, and attempted squatting. We even submitted footage of Karen trying to command the house by shouting into a throw pillow. That's when the media really latched on. Reporters licensing offers, Netflix reaching out about a documentary. Karen's world, on the other hand, started to crumble. County audits exposed her unauthorized gazebo built with misappropriated funds. HOA board members resigned, her badge was revoked, and her reputation tanked. At the same time, city inspectors asked about licensing. My treehouse design investors wanted in, and I suddenly had a business where just months ago I had a headache. But Karen, oh, she wasn't finished. She tried sneaking back late at night, bumbling around my deck with a dollar store rope ladder and a flashlight clenched between her teeth. I caught the whole thing on security cams, her muttering, falling into the bushes, arguing with a mosquito, finally managing to sneak inside. She didn't realize I'd installed new security. The moment she tried plugging in her phone for a selfie, I triggered the pre-recorded intruder alert. Lights flashed red, the speakers blared her own greatest hits, her press conference, her Facebook rants on every screen. She panicked, tried every door, every window. When nothing worked, I sent the house rolling back into the woods one last time. She spent the night in the treehouse, alone, defeated, and by sunrise I retrieved it myself, watched as her sister picked her up in silence. After that, things actually got peaceful. The new HOA, full of normal folks, invited me to talk about sustainable tech. The neighbors who used to avoid me now dropped by to chat. Some even asked to rent out a treehouse when the business launched. Karen faded from the picture, became a local punchline, eventually even left a scrawled apology on my workbench. I was wrong. Don't think I'll say it twice. Karen. I saved it, tucked it under the original blueprint as a reminder. You know what I mean? That's life. Sometimes you just have to let the bullies scream, let the treehouse roll, and keep your sense of humor intact. Because at the end of the day, you can take over a lawn, a committee, or even a treehouse for a minute, but if you don't respect the roots, the whole thing's bound to roll away sooner or later. So let me ask you, who do you think was right? Is justice really about paperwork and bylaws, or is it about finally standing up to the one person who just won't let anyone else be happy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where do you draw the line between community and control?